When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the Vehicle Owner's Manual for important feature limitations and information.
This episode is brought to you by Microsoft Azure. Turn your ideas into reality with an Azure free account. Get everything you need to develop apps across cloud and hybrid environments, scale workloads, create cloud-connected mobile experiences, and so much more. Discover what you can create with popular services free for 12 months. Learn more at azure.com. That's AZURE.com. And sign up for a free account to start building in the cloud today.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to your post-match Raw, podcasting to you from my field here in beautiful rural Ireland. I'm Trev Downey, and joining me to give their immediate reactions to Liverpool 0, Nottingham Forest 1 in the Premier League from Anfield as the slot honeymoon ends are Dave Hendrick and Karl Matchett. Dave, I've described that game personally as sort of uninspired, sloppy, and the phrase I use, because I couldn't think of a better one, was at times low IQ, because there seemed to be daft decisions being made by lads that we know are far more clever than that. But it was like they all had their stupid day at the same time. It was hard to watch, man.
It was hard to watch. 16 players played for us today, and I think you can make an argument that 3 of them, maybe 4, had decent games, and all the rest were somewhere between bad and atrocious.
Let's go there straight away, because I'm thinking Ali, I'm thinking Virgil. I thought Bradley was okay when he came on. I'm struggling after that.
I would completely disagree with John Bradley. I thought he was atrocious.
Fair play.
I thought he was absolutely horrific defensively, which is what his primary role is.
Well, in a back 3, right? Yeah,
especially in the back 3. Callum Hudson-Odoi ate him alive multiple times.
He did have one brilliant interception, but it was after he fucked up. So I will.
That's it. He cleaned up his own mistake, and I'm not giving him credit for that because he shouldn't have had to, because he shouldn't have made the mistake. I thought he made poor decisions with the ball. But you can't put any blame on him because he's a young player. He just shouldn't be playing as much as he has been. Like, we don't need Conor Bradley coming on in every single game.
So, Virgil, who else do you reckon?
I would say Kanate had a decent game.
Yeah.
I thought he had a decent game. Other than that, I thought they were atrocious. I thought Robbo was absolutely abysmal.
Oh, shocking.
Absolutely abysmal. I thought all 3 members of the midfield were poor. I thought, and they got progressively worse.
The Bosley's worst day ever.
The Bosley was atrocious.
Yeah.
Alexis doesn't look fit.
No.
And we'll get on to the referee. But that fella got booted out of the first half, and nothing was given. Nothing was given.
No.
I thought Mo had one of the worst games I've seen him have for us. He had a couple of really good moments, but it wasn't even just that he was getting bottled up by a defender, because people will rush to give Alex Moreno a lot of credit for today. Mo just made a lot of really simplistic errors.
Yeah.
When he cut back in field and tried to lay the ball off, the pass would just be a yard too hard, a yard too soft. I thought he was terrible. I thought Diaz had a couple of good moments in the first half, but became incredibly frustrating. And I judged Diogo Jota just couldn't get into the game, and we couldn't get him the ball in the right areas. And do you know what's funny is a lot of what we saw today were things that bothered me in the Brentford match. there was a complete lack of central progression and everything having to be funneled wide, which goes against what this system is meant to do, how this system is meant to operate. It's meant to create central overload, central like gridlock, so that when we move the ball wide at pace, we then get 2-on-1 or an isolation 1-on-1 with Mo against the fullback or Diaz against the fullback, and ideally someone coming in support. And we just couldn't move the ball through the middle of the pitch.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing against Brentford. Against Brentford, though, once we went ahead, they started to open up a little bit and we were able to have a bit more joy. But I do think we do need to pause, because we're going to criticize our players for the majority of this podcast, and we're going to definitely criticize the referee, though not blame him for the result. We're just going to criticize his performance. He didn't lose us the game. He certainly didn't help, but he didn't lose the game. But I do think we need to give credit to Forest here, because they came with a very, very straightforward game plan of condensing space, forcing us wide, and being able to double up on our wide players. You had Elliot Anderson and Dominguez playing as the quote-unquote wingers. Neither of them are wide players, but both of them have incredible engines and work really, really hard. So they were able to kind of control our fullbacks and where they were playing. They tracked our fullbacks pretty much wherever they went, and both of them put in a really good shift. And Forest stuck to that game plan. They executed it really well. Nuno, to his credit, I thought nailed his in-game changes where I thought Slot got his wrong. And then their subs won them the game. Elanga and Gibbs-White and Hudson-Odoi rather came on and won them the game. And let's be very clear, that game was an awful lot closer to being 2-0 Forest than it was 1-1 or 2-1 Liverpool. The best save that was made in that game was made by Alisson Becker from Elanga. That was the biggest chance that was missed in that game. They created the chances. We did not. They nailed their game plan. We did not. They stuck to what they came to do. And we just seemed to flit from thing to thing to thing and not really have much of an idea of what we were meant to be doing. As you said at the very start of this, it was like the collective IQ of our team just shrank. It was like all of them watched Donald Trump in the debate the other night, and his IQ infested their brain and turned them all into morons. And all of them played like morons today. Every single one of them.
Every single one of them heading out for a cat and dog lunch after this. And the thing is, Karl, I take on board what Dave's saying. We do have to give credit to Forest. I thought another aspect of it, and you can tell me if you agree or not, in terms of the ability to, or their efforts to stop us from going through the middle and forcing us wide, was Gibbs-White was literally mirroring every movement of Gravenberch. He sat on him. He just basically shadowed him. So the concept of getting Gravenberch on the ball and turning into space in midfield was not a thing that was happening much. The only times Gravenberch was able to free himself up was after a challenge, which got Gibbs-White away from him. That was a completely different part of the play. I thought that in and of itself was part of a very intelligent sort of game plan against us. And it did look like, today was a school day for Arne Slot.
Yeah, and look, I think with regards to the midfield in particular, I think early on, sort of first half, we saw a few times Gravenberch and McAllister did a little swap, and one of them would sit and the other one would go. And that seemed to get us, the spells of possession where we did have a bit more dominance and a bit more able to escape that first real bit of energy from Forest. But by and large, this was really poor. You've kind of gone over like parts of the game and players and stuff there with Dave. So, I mean, I would just say here, not that any of us wanted it or anything of the sort, and not that we're going to make any excuses for the performance of 90 minutes, because what we'll do on Raw is the match in isolation. But Slot needed this game. Like, not now, he didn't need it immediately. I just mean until he had a game like this, until he had a result like this, there's no way he could know, really, even if you watch all the videos, even if you look back at the team last season, all the rest of it, you can't know coming into the Premier League what the Premier League is like until you face it, until you have a game where you don't quite do everything as well as you could, and therefore any team will beat you if they play the way that they have to, if they work harder, if they are smarter, if you don't have any kind of sort of creativity or intelligence or work rate or speed about your play. If everything is in front of the defence, every team will stop you. It's not like other leagues where, I don't want to be completely disparaging of just the Eredivisie, because it's not just the Eredivisie. You can come here from Germany and really struggle if you think that you're going to beat teams in the same way as you might beat Holstein Kiel or whoever it is, that these teams in the Premier League, even the crap ones, can be relentless in their energy, in their positional play, in how good they are from an athletic point of view. Until Slot had a game where he did not have lots of control, lots of easy midfielders to play against, a 2-0 win, heading into the final 20 minutes every single time, until he came up against it, until he saw this group of players, even, because we know this group of players better than he does at the minute, what they're capable of in early kickoffs or after international breaks or in back-to-back matches or when we've had a 2-week break for any God knows reason because of the fixture list just happens that way. These players can pull out this performance, and sometimes they need a rocket or sometimes you have to swap things around. He spoke about before the match about probably needing to rotate more at Liverpool than he did at Feyenoord because he could just basically play the same team every game there. Here you find out why, Arne Slot, because you have to have some of those players who are not in your starting 11 playing regularly and knowing that if they play well, they come into the team. Because if you don't, this is the type of performance you do get from a lot of your starting 11 because they know they'll be the team next time. And
to double down on your point, let's just say that perhaps he at least had some of those building blocks in situ, in that the pattern over the last few games has been to give a decent chunk of time at the end to the likes of Darwin and Bradley. So you could say that at least that had been in situ, but of course the international break kind of makes a balls of that. But when they were called on, a lot of subs came on today, and they didn't have, as Dave said earlier on, half the impact of the Nottingham Forest subs. And that too is an issue in terms of if your team on the field isn't doing it, you should be able to call on that bench, regardless of, I guess, the level of intense preparation of them. There should be quality there. And we didn't see that. We didn't see that step up in quality. Honestly, some of them looked lost. I can't remember a single thing. Sorry, I remember one semi-positive thing that Darwin did in his entire time on the pitch. It's not really good enough that we don't have that impact in terms of the quality, Karl.
Yeah, what was that one positive thing he did, Trev?
I'd have to
stuck a foot in after he lost the ball himself.
Yeah, it was a Bradley style positive thing that we're talking about earlier on. He'd lost the ball and then kind of won it back and set us up for a thing. So I mean, just to put that to you, Karl, we can say all we like about the international break, but surely, the combined, football intelligence, inverted commas, and football ability of the people coming off that bench, someone should have been able to lift it or change the tempo. Or was it a matter of him getting his substitutes wrong? Should Dominic Szoboszlai and Mo Salah have been long off the field, for example?
I think Szoboszlai should have, sure, but I also think Andy Robertson was lucky not to get hooked in the first group of subs, let's say. You can have the argument that he could have made more subs, or he could have made earlier subs, or he could have changed the starting 11 or whatever. The point was, everything that he did today didn't work. And you have to include whether it's pre-match team talk or the sort of coaching ahead of the game in terms of our build-up play wasn't really there, or whether it's his selection or his subs or his halftime team talk, whatever it was, none of it worked today. So that's where he has to take the lesson, if you like, the sort of realization that he has got it wrong. Dave said he got his subs wrong. Maybe the personnel was wrong. Certainly, I think the way that we changed, I used the word very, very loosely, system for the final 15 minutes or so was an abomination. There was no kind of cohesion there whatsoever. And if there has been a hallmark, if you can have a hallmark to your game in the first 3 matches of the season, cohesion would be the one I give to Liverpool. There was none of that whatsoever. We created nothing, didn't have any control of the game, and we couldn't stop them playing through.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, and I saw a couple of interesting statistics from Cy Brundish. I'll put the first of them at least to you, Dave. Apparently that's the first time a Liverpool manager is named an unchanged team in 3 consecutive games since August 2018. And, we talked about that, and the team was likely to be the team, and then there is the international thing to factor in, so maybe it shouldn't have been. And we have a very strong bench there today, I think, in Kelleher, Gomez, Endo, Nunes, Jones, Gakpo, Tsimikas, Kwanzaa, and Bradley. I mean, we can't argue with the quality on that bench. I mean, that to me is an interesting stat in and of itself. But is there anything to be said for the fact that perhaps naming the unchanged 11 was a bad move, given the amount of travel a lot of those guys have had, given the amount of football some of them had in their legs over the last couple of weeks? I don't know. I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but I'm wondering, was that perhaps mistake number one, going with that unchanged 11, despite the fact that it seems like a win to be able to do it?
Yeah, possibly. I think you can certainly make the case that the two South American outfielders maybe shouldn't have started, McAllister and Diaz, because of how far they've travelled. And because Alexis has been carrying this knock. I mean, he didn't train for most of the first week he was away with Argentina. Then he played 90 and got booted again. I don't even think he played 90. I think he played like 75. Got booted up in the air a couple of times. Then didn't train again for another couple of days. And then came off the bench in Argentina's second game. So what he doesn't have the minutes on international duty, he has to travel, and he has whatever this niggle is that he's dealing with. Diaz, likewise, huge amount of travel and also huge amount of minutes, plus like the way he plays, and especially for Colombia, he's covering an awful lot of distance. So I could have understood fully if he'd started somebody else instead of Alexis and Diaz. But in terms of the rest of them, I mean, Trent didn't have a huge amount of travel. I know he went to Finland. They played Finland at home, didn't they? So he came to Ireland and went back to England. So I think that's fine. Ibu didn't play in the second game. Virgil plays most games at a walking pace. Gravenberch did play a lot. And maybe you'd say, that's 5 games in a row for him. And maybe that's a little bit more than he's capable of at the moment. But you couldn't really change both central midfielders. So I think if one of them was to stay in, it would have had to have been him. Like Salah, I mean, I don't see an issue playing him. Didn't see an issue playing Szoboszlai.
Szoboszlai was pretty impressive for his country. He's another guy who's had 5 games in a row. But this time last year, we started having the anxiety about managing Dom's minutes. When we were throwing him into League Cup games and stuff.
Yeah. And then obviously Jota, I think, played 1 minute in the first game and then played most of the second game. The two I would have said you probably should have taken a good look at are Alexis and Diaz. And I thought, Diaz's performance, again, first half, there was some moments where he looked good and he was doing good things and obviously nearly scored. But you could tell he was looking a little bit leggy. And Alexis, it just wasn't a good day for him, really. And it's kind of telling that the game where he plays poor, the other two in midfield look really poor as well.
Yeah.
Like, he's the one that links that midfield together and makes it all make sense. He's the brain in that midfield. The other two are the athletes. And they're both clever footballers in their own right. And they're both obviously very talented. But he's the one that kind of knits everything together on and off the ball, and he wasn't at the races today, and as a result the midfield just didn't look good.
I don't need a VPN, I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit libertyshield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
And to be fair to Nottingham Forest, again, Karl, to give them their due, I thought, whereas the stats of the match, the standard stats of the match, 14 shots to Liverpool, 5 to them, 5 shots on target for Liverpool to their 3, 70% of the ball for Liverpool, some 83% pass accuracy compared to only 67 for them. But where you start seeing one of the little stats that actually made a difference over the course of the game, it's actually the fouls, 15 to 6, and that was very much weighted against the Reds. We'll chat about Michael Oliver in a minute, but just to finish on Forest, it is a very interesting lineup, full of very good players. But I know yourself and Dave were confident going into this one. I spoke to Jan on the Thursday night. He was very confident going into this one as well. I mean, was there any way in which you saw this coming from this particular group of players? I mean, we can't argue with some of the quality, and the guys who came off the bench really showed their ability, but it really was more to do with the starters and the fact that they really limited the Reds in terms of proper opportunities, and in terms of they frustrated the bejesus out of us, so that when one first time ball or when one final ball went askew, the next one did, the next one didn't. All of a sudden, that was the pattern. And credit where it's due. Yeah, we were poor, but it felt very much as if Nottingham Forest sort of brought that out of us with their performance.
I think a bit of both, to be fair. Forest definitely had a very, very strong game plan and stuck to it very, very much. But I think we were way below what we were capable of. I mean, we'll go through it, obviously, but you think back to the only real chance that we created, it was like a mid-air half volley, side-footed from an awkward angle, awkward height. Like that's not a chance. Like, we didn't create anything. We were way below it in terms of tempo. Nobody was really able to, I'm not going to say like just to beat a man and make something happen, because there was no space, because that was Forest's game plan. We had nowhere to go, but somebody had to produce some technical, impressive work in that case. And so many passes were like just behind the man. So many of them were like sideways without anywhere really to go. We had people who were making a few runs, but they were always like half a yard off it. Like, don't want to keep harping on about him, but he was particularly bad. So we can sort of point out, like, Robertson was like short in 50-50s. He was short to return passes. There was one where Gravenberch tried to play him through and he was like half a yard short of getting to that as well. I mean, everything was just a little bit off in terms of the timing, the technique, the weight of everything that we did. It was really, really poor from us, let's be honest. There's no hiding that. Even if Forest were very good, we still would expect to fashion some chances, and we did nothing.
To be to tick the box, Forest went with Sells in goal, Murillo, Anderson, Gibbs, White, Wood, Dominguez, Ward-Prowse, Moreno, Yates, Milenkovic, and Aynan there. I think shirt number orders, but you can do the sums yourselves. They had Miguel, Morato who came on, Williams who came on, Awani. They had Hudson-Odoi who came on, Toffolo on the bench, Jota who came on, and Elanga who came on, the latter to good effect as well. And we have referee Michael Oliver. We might as well do the first ref watch of the season here, because every time Michael Oliver always, to me, sort of seems like the guy he was the anointed one. He was the next great ref. We were all to look to Michael Oliver from when he was a nipper and see what refereeing was all about. And somehow, some way, it went so badly wrong that, I find him one of the more sort of egregiously awful referees, in that it seems biased for me to say that about the foul count earlier on, the 15-5 or 6 or whatever it was. And I think the likes of Ibu Konate can count himself a little bit unlucky on one or two occasions, because he's bigger than the guy he's going up against. But it did seem it was okay for Nottingham Forest to kick the likes of, as Dave mentioned earlier on, McAllister all over the kip. It did seem as if that was the case. And I'm just wondering. I want to put it out there. I'm not going to hammer the guy. I don't want to, make it about him being to blame, as we've said already. But Dave, just to get your take on Oliver, like, if this is the best that the league has to offer, it's a poor look out, because I think he did get a lot wrong today.
Oh, he did. Michael Oliver's never been a good referee. Like, you are right. It was the fact that he was like the young new referee, and he was, kind of ordained very early as this is the guy to keep an eye on. This is going to be like the next great referee. Like, how long has he been reffing in the Premier League? I think 14 years or something, and he's still only 39. Like, this is where it comes from. He was into the Premier League at a very, very young age. He started refereeing at like 17 or 18. He's the type of lad that grew up having his lunch money taken away from him by the bigger boys, wasn't invited to play football because he was no fucking good, snitched to everybody, and the teachers said, you've got to include him, and they said, right, you can be the referee, and he decided to take that to heart, and he's just been a referee ever since. You can tell he's the type of kid that was a hall monitor in school, and when he saw someone wander around, he asked them where their hall pass was, or, he'd just be snitching on everybody. You can just tell by the look of him. He looks like Rimmer from Red Dwarf, which has always been amusing to me as well, but I think Rimmer from Red Dwarf would actually put forward a better performance. He's just not a good referee.
Should we say at least in his favour, he doesn't look like a cop?
No.
Does he look like a cop? He looks like he looks like a Garda. I'll give him that.
He does look like a Garda that you might meet on a country road in Roscommon or somewhere.
Market road traffic attendant.
Do you know what he is? He's the type of fella that moves into an area and sets up a neighbourhood watch and appoints himself as the head of the neighbourhood watch and has neighbourhood watch meetings where he's the only person that attends and issues fines to other people in the neighbourhood for things they've done.
With a whistle and a card.
100%. I don't know if either of you have ever watched The Big Bang Theory, when the whatever it was called, the building committee used to send out fines to people for things they'd done wrong. It turned out it was just Sheldon by himself. But that's what he'd be like. He'd be the type of fella that moves into your estate, and then you get a letter through the box there saying that you've been fined 50 quid because your grass is like 3 centimetres too long. And you're like, how on earth does anyone know that? And then one night you just happen to look out your window and there he is with a ruler measuring your grass. That's who Michael Oliver is. He's a snitch. You can just tell him he's a big snitch in Edinburgh. But, like, he allowed Ryan Yates to boot McAllister all around the place. And it wasn't a thing that he didn't give him a yellow card for it. He didn't even give a free kick for it. Like, he got away with 3 or 4 different things where he just, like, physically assaulted McAllister, and it wasn't even a free kick. And you know what really wound me up? Now, I don't know what channel I was watching it on. I had some old stream going. And this, I think it's Karen Carney, is that her name? Was on co-coms, and she's just, like, she was a really good player. And sometimes I think she's quite good, particularly in studio, but she was on co-coms. I think it was her now, it might not have been. And she was like, oh, Ryan Yates, he's really got Liverpool rattled here. You're like, what are you talking about? He's just going around assaulting our players. And if he wasn't a big, dumb English fella, he'd be up in arms about it. But he gets away with it because he's some big, dumb English lad. We couldn't expect a big, dumb English lad to go out and play a bit of football. No, he's just in there to boot people. Just fucking mind-blowing. And this prick is wandering around, ignoring it all. And then as soon as one of our players breathes on one of their players, and they fall on the floor, oh, free kick straight away.
Yeah, it had that.
In the interests of fairness and to highlight the ineptitude on show on the day, or willingness to let the game flow if you're of a refereeing persuasion yourself. I thought Conor Bradley might get a yellow or straight red when he flew in. I'm not sure if it was on Yates as well later on, and he completely missed him, took him out, and the ref just went, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, the game was gone, as they say at that stage, and he was very much instrumental
I've
in
just
that.
noticed that his dad was a referee. His dad was a referee called, his dad is Clive Oliver, which, I mean, what a tremendous name that is. Clive Oliver was a lower leagues referee, and in 2009, Clive refereed the League Two playoff final, and then the next day, Michael refereed the League One playoff final.
See, that's what it's all about, legacy.
Legacy. He is that's probably why he's so highly regarded. His father's probably quite highly thought of, and this fella, with a bit of nepotism, has just got pushed to the moon. And like, he's not ever at any point been a good referee.
I could be wrong, but I think he was anointed very early on by Ferguson. I could be wrong there, but I have a feeling that Ferguson said positive things about him. And this is in the era where Ferguson could win a league by saying whatever he wanted to say. So let's get into the detail of the match. Karl, you and I'll take a look at the first half. It took a long time to get going. We had the ball, but we weren't doing anything much with it. Pretty much all over the possession without any chances really worth a damn being carved out until the 16th minute, as far as I can recall. It was very good by Luis Diaz, chasing down a lost cause. But I mean, the build-up play was a ball down the side, slipped down the side by Gravenberch, and it was so hopelessly bad that everyone had given up except Luis Diaz, who chased down that cause, and it hadn't enough legs to quite get over the byline before he got to it. Did his man up like a kipper. Fantastic stuff. Cuts in and is unlucky with his near post shot for it to go off the inside of the post and roll across the face of the danger area. We had another opportunity on 18 minutes. A really lovely delivery outside of the foot with Mo Salah. Kind of that stereotypical or trademark cross of his. And it comes off Dominic's head shoulder combo and goes wide. Then Gibbs White got in and he fired wide, but he was well offside. Should have been perhaps a little bit of a reminder for us. 24 minutes, McAllister has a nice little poke ball forward, a little ding outside the football into the box, sort of drifting right to or left to right. And Jota's there. I think this is the chance you were talking about. He makes contact with his foot. And it's tempting to say that he should do better, but I kind of take your point about what else is he going to do except make the contact and force it goalward. Every commentator on Premier Sports, mostly Irish lads, are saying they should have thrown his head at it. Interesting to see what you make of that. And we'll just finish here, you and I, in 28 minutes, where Virgil heads a corner from Robbo just wide. On a different day that perhaps goes in. He has another opportunity in the second half, which on a different day perhaps goes in. That opening half hour or so, any comment to make? Yeah, I know I skipped through an awful lot of that first 15 minutes. I didn't say anything about it because I didn't feel there was anything much to say. You may have different ideas.
No, pretty much along the same lines. I'll be honest, I lost my viewing, let's say, from about, I think it was about 14 minutes through to 20 minutes or 21 minutes, something like that. And so I asked one of my friends, I missed anything here? Like a few passes sideways. That was about it. So I don't think I missed out too much. The Diaz chance, it was basically as a result of endeavour, wasn't it? It wasn't like a chance creation. It was just a moment of individualism. Like I was saying, something we needed a bit later on in the game. We didn't really even have the chance to see anyone do any of that because there wasn't really any of that forceful running, that sort of willingness to close down and do all manner of things just to make something like that happen. It was all round very, very disappointing in that opening spell, despite a lot of possession. You never thought we're going to be under pressure here or anything of the sort, but it was a little bit like, well, we have to wait until half time because already you could see what wasn't happening and what wasn't going to happen just as a sort of spur of the moment in match situation. And obviously a few times already this season we've been second half Liverpool, so it was kind of already in that, I was at least in that waiting until the break kind of holding pattern.
Exactly the same as where I was mentally as well, thinking, look, it'll come right. But as the first half went on, Dave, I mean, there was a nice move that nearly got Robertson in, led to a corner at 35. Trent's corner comes in and sort of puts the keeper under pressure. It's a corner shot, for want of a better word. Eventually, after a bit of play, McAllister plays it out wide to Trent, who's still over there on the left-hand side, having taken the corner. And his in-swinging cross is met by McAllister, whose glancing header is well saved by the keeper. A decent opportunity, but again, not a nailed-on one or anything like it. In that spell, I have to say, I thought Trent was really decent. 39 minutes, there was an option for Luis Diaz, where basically the ball comes across. It's a nothing header from Diaz. He kind of gets his head to it, but it's up a mile in the air and coming down, and the keeper manages to make an absolute balls of itself and nearly spills into his own net. In a very embarrassing fashion. It nearly bounced up and in and off his arse and in. 43 minutes, Alex Moreno picked up the first yellow of the match, taking out McAllister as we were breaking. There were 3 added, and there was a kind of a chance where Gravenberch puts in a good clearance that leads to a corner. And then the last thing I've noted here is that Dom Szoboszlai is just off, or quite a bit off, with almost every pass. I'm only singling him out because that was the one I saw as the half was ending, when I was starting to feel the frustration, despite the fact that I said to Karl there, I felt we would turn into what he termed their second half Liverpool, which has been the pattern. I was starting to get frustrated and starting to doubt that possibility. I felt a bit uneasy as that half ended, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, the first half had become very, very frustrating because the final ball was continually letting us down, or, that line-splitting ball just wasn't there. And so it was becoming a little bit of an uneasy sort of thing, and didn't think the crowd was great with that. I thought they got a little bit edgy as well through the first half, maybe a little bit bored, because it was a little bit boring. But as Karl said, he misses 6 games. He asks what I missed, a few passes, mostly sideways, mostly backwards. And that was kind of it. It reminded me an awful lot of some of the stuff we watched last year.
Yeah.
It was almost like the players went away on their international breaks and forgot everything they learned.
Yeah.
About how this system and this style of play is meant to operate. And like I said, that's why I keep talking about the central progression, because the key to how Arne wants us to build is to build centrally through the middle third of the pitch, get into the final third in central areas, draw the defence in, and then spring it wide, rather than getting it wide and relying on Mo to perform miracles, or relying on Trent to produce a moment of magic. That's not what this system is meant to do. It's meant to get them better opportunities.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.